Mayang buntag, magandang umaga, xin chào and good morning. In today's IELTS teacher training, yes, we focus on IELTS speaking, mainly about IELTS speaking part 2, which is fluency and coherence. So here again, we have to check here our track for IELTS teacher training. So this is our track. The first track is knowledge acquisition. So we have to cover here four skills: speaking skills, writing task 1, task 2, listening and reading. Then we have acquisition and mastery. So today we focus on speaking. IELTS speaking for knowledge acquisition. So we're still here at this course track here. So again, today's main focus for IELTS teacher training is IELTS speaking part 2 and mainly focus on fluency and coherence. Now to understand what this is, so again, IELTS speaking part 2 is also called the individual long term. So these tests last for roughly 4 to 5 minutes, and that includes preparation time. Now, to understand fluency and coherence, let us first here check the four criteria in which the candidate gets award in their IELTS speaking. So we have here fluency, lexical resource, GRA, and pronunciation. So let us check here the band 7 for fluency and coherence. The first criteria here is understand the question or the task. Okay, so that is the first criteria for band 7 fluency and coherence. The second one is speaks at length. Okay, so that's the second one. And the third one is that the flow of the flow of the talk is logical and relevant. Okay, so if we check here first the progress report of a student to understand, okay, what I mean by or how to grade or how to award the students in their IELTS speaking. So we have your part 1. We have four criteria here. We have fluency and coherence, lexical resource, GRA, and pronunciation. So we are here in part 2, fluency and coherence. Okay, so let's go back to here. Again, to get a band 7 in IELTS speaking part 2, fluency and coherence, first is the candidate must understand the question or the task. The second one is that the candidate has to speak at length. And the third one is that the answer or their talk is logical and relevant. Okay. So let us understand carefully these three main criteria. Okay. So let us understand this one very carefully. All right, these three main criteria. We have here understand the question or the task. That's the first one. The second one is speaks at length. And the third one here is that the answer or the talk is logical and relevant. Now let's take a look at first, what do we mean by understand the question or the task? In IELTS speaking part 2, there are three general questions that might be asked of you. The first one is a question that asks you to describe the process or steps. The second one is a question that asks you to describe the sequence of events. And the third one is the questions that ask you to describe the situations and give your reasons. Okay. Now let us check here again. To understand the question means to understand the three general types of questions. Okay. The second one is speaks at length. So how do we speak at length? Now, to speak at length, that means one must have here the speaking structure. So as you can see here, there is a speaking structure. So as for speaking structure, we must have an opening, points, and conclusion. So as we can see here in the model answer, so we have the we have the points. So the points are certainly found in the cue card, the opening is to give a short background of the topic, all right? And for the conclusion is to give a brief summary or restatement of the answer. Another way to speak at length is to use complex sentences. So as we can see here in this model answer, the red highlighted words here are examples of are conjunctions or that are used or conjunctions, okay, as the what is that main words, okay, that we use in complex sentences, okay. So let's have another example here on how to speak at length. So again, there are two main things that the candidate must do to speak at length. The first one is to have the structure of the talk. So there must be an opening, points, and conclusion. All right. And the second one is to use your complex sentences. Okay. So let's listen to model answer. Okay. And let's see how the candidate expands the answer. All right.
Now, I'm going to give you a topic, and I'd like you to talk about it for 1 to 2 minutes. Before you talk, you'll have 1 minute to think about what you're going to say. You can make some notes if you wish. Do you understand?
Uh-huh.
Here's a paper and pencil for making notes, and here's your topic. I'd like you to talk about somewhere you go to shop for food.
Well, I'm going to talk about where I shop for food. Like most people, I have to go shopping for food quite frequently. I live with a couple of other women and we're students, so we can't afford to eat in restaurants very often. We're all healthy eaters, but I really like going to the local market because I like organic food, and everything you get there is fantastic. It's so fresh. So let me tell you where it is. It's in this street near my home. It's a pedestrian street. You know, there are no cars. It's right in the middle of a busy district. It's opposite the station, so it's very convenient. Yeah, and what's it like? Well, it's usually pretty crowded. It's quite a popular place. There's a large number of stalls that sell food, and some shops too. I've been going there for quite a while, so I know where the healthiest food is. I usually buy things like fruit and vegetables, also meat and cheese and fish. I've got a favourite stall. It's run by a little old lady, and any of the fruit she sells is great. She weighs everything very quickly, and you can't bargain with her, but the price is always reasonable. As I've mentioned, I like it because the food tastes good, but also it's a very sociable place. People do stop and talk to each other. In fact, it's very noisy. Yeah, all in all, I like it because it's a great place to go. It's a colourful experience.
Okay, so that's great. So again, the goal for, the second criteria for IELTS speaking part 2 is that the candidate has to speak at length. So when we say speak at length, that means he or she has to speak at least a minute or over a minute or 2 minutes. Okay, so 2 minutes, 1 to 2 minutes. And to do that again, one must understand here the structure, the speaking structure. So we must have here a clear opening. That means a clear background of the topic, of your topic. Second are your points. That means these points are found in your cue card. And the last one is your conclusion. That means you have to give a brief ending of your talk, all right? And the second way to speak at length is to use your complex sentences. So we have your complex sentences that shows reasons, additions, contrast, example, purpose, and condition. Okay, so here's another example of IELTS speaking part 2. So we can see here that the candidate also speaks at length. Okay, so by speaking at length, again, there's a clear introduction. The points are clearly described, and there is also an ending of the talk. Okay, so let's play this Let's listen to the to student giving his talk about this topic.
Well, I'm quite fit because I do a range of sports like running and tennis, but I've always dreamed of taking part in a triathlon. I really like the idea of that. A triathlon's a multi-sport event, but rather a hard one. It basically consists of swimming, cycling and running events, but you have to do them one after the other. You know, there are no breaks, so it would be quite a challenge. You can do various distances for each sport. There's an Olympic distance, which I wish I could do, but it would be too much for me. However, I think I'm likely to finish if I choose a shorter course. There's one that's, I think it involves a 750-metre swim, followed by 20 kilometres on the bike, and then a 5-kilometre run. As for when I'd take part in it, I'm not sure. Looking ahead, I don't expect I'll be able to tackle it until my academic year's ended. That means I'd be thinking in terms of maybe doing it in a year's time. That would be realistic because I'd need time to train and really get into shape. It's not something that I could do in a hurry. Obviously, it would be a really healthy thing to do because it would force me to get even fitter than I am now. Plus, I'd have to eat well during the training period and get plenty of sleep and that sort of thing. Yeah, I'm actually looking forward to doing a triathlon. I'd really like to do it sometime soon, and I just hope I'll be successful at it.
Have you always tried to do things that are healthy?
Oh, yes. Well, probably. I think I've enjoyed doing sport and exercise since I was a child. And I also try to eat well and get plenty of sleep.
Okay, so the last question there by the examiner is called the follow-up question. So every after speaking part two, so once the candidate completed the talk, the examiner is going to give a follow-up question. That is 1 to 2 follow-up questions. So again, to meet the criteria for speaking at length, so we must have a clear introduction, points, and conclusion. And the second one is that we must use here a variety of complex sentences.
Well, I'm quite...
So again, that is a second structure, or that is a second criteria for fluency and coherence. That is to speak at length. Okay, so there must be a clear speaking structure, and there must be a wider range use of complex sentences. Okay, so that's pretty easy to remember. Now, the third one is the third criteria for fluency and coherence is that the talk must be logical and relevant. Okay, so how do we do that? Okay, so how do we make our talk logical and relevant? Okay, so the first thing that we must do is, or the candidate must do, is to have practice note taking. All right. So again, in IELTS speaking part two, the candidate has 1 minute preparation time. Okay, so during that 1 minute, so after the here's the introduction. So it says here, the examiner would say, here's a paper and a pencil for making notes, and here's your topic. So, and I'd like you to talk about something you would like to do in the future that would be good for your health. Okay, and then after that, the examiner allows the candidate to have 1 minute to prepare for his or her talk, and in that 1 minute, one must take down notes. All right, so I call this as the window method. So we have the 4 quadrants here, and he or she must make her ideas logical, of course, by taking down notes. These are the points found in the cue card. So what it'd like to do, so this is the note of the speaker. What does it involve? So it consists of swimming, cycling, and so on. When he would like to do it? So he's not sure, probably after a year. And why is it good for his health? He's also not sure, but he'll be forced to become. But I think this activity would force him to become fitter. Okay. Now we're going to listen to again to the example answer or example talk. All right, and we're going to listen and read along the notes. All right, so this is the notes of the candidate. All right, so here we have what like to do. The answer here is triathlon here. Okay, what does it involve? When would he like to do it, and why would this activity good for his health. Okay, so let's listen.
Well, I'm quite fit because I do a range of sports like running and tennis, but I've always dreamed of taking part in a triathlon. I really like the idea of that. A triathlon's a multi-sport event, but rather a hard one. It basically consists of swimming, cycling and running events, but you have to do them one after the other. You know, there are no breaks, so it would be quite a challenge. You can do various distances for each sport. There's an Olympic distance, which I wish I could do, but it would be too much for me. However, I think I'm likely to finish if I choose a shorter course. There's one that's, I think it involves a 750-metre swim, followed by 20 kilometres on the bike, and then a 5-kilometre run. As for when I'd take part in it, I'm not sure. Looking ahead, I don't expect I'll be able to tackle it until my academic year's ended. That means I'd be thinking in terms of maybe doing it in a year's time. That would be realistic because I'd need time to train and really get into shape. It's not something that I could do in a hurry. Obviously, it would be a really healthy thing to do because it would force me to get even fitter than I am now. Plus, I'd have to eat well during the training period and get plenty of sleep and that sort of thing. Yeah, I'm actually looking forward to doing a triathlon. I'd really like to do it sometime soon, and I just hope I'll be successful at it.
Have you
Okay, so again, the one of the best ways to make your answer logical and relevant, coherent is to take down notes so that your ideas or yes will flow within the context of your notes. All right. So that's one best way to make your answer logical and relevant. Okay. So here's another example for taking down notes. Okay. So the topic here is about describing a situation when you had to use a foreign language to communicate. All right. And here's a note. So where is that? Where did it happen? So when he went to the art gallery, what happened there? How well did he communicate, and why does he remember the situation very well? Okay, so now the same thing we did a while ago. So we're going to listen, read along the notes to the model answer of the talk. All right.
A couple of years ago, I went on holiday with a friend to Windsor. The reason why we chose Windsor is that I've got an aunt who lives there. She's been living there for 20 years now. And, well, I've always enjoyed traveling. I always wanted to go to the UK. At the time, my friend and I had just finished our exams at school and we were waiting to go to university. It was a summer break and she invited us to visit her, so we decided to go. Before we went, we hired a car, which we picked up when we reached the airport. I remember it was a bright green Mini. We drove it straight to my aunt's house in Windsor and left it outside for a day or two. This was because she lived in the center of town and most places, like Windsor Castle, were easy to reach on foot. However, one morning we took a trip to a gallery. There was an art exhibition that I wanted to see, so we set off, but after half an hour, bang, we had a flat tire. Now, unfortunately, neither of us knew how to change a tire. So the next thing we did was to call the emergency services and explain the situation. Well, I speak fairly good English, but I didn't know how to say tire. And I was on the phone, so that made it worse. I just had to keep saying, "We've got a problem with the wheel." And during all this, my friend was making hand signals at me, and eventually I just said, "Flat." Well, it was amazing. As soon as I said that word, she went, "Oh, right, I understand." 20 minutes later, a recovery van arrived and fixed our flat tire with no charge. So, what have I learned from this experience? I mean, it was a difficult situation, but ever since then, I've known that a flat in English means a flat tire.
Okay. So that's very clear, okay? So again, the best way to make the answer for speaking part 2 logical and relevant is to take down notes so that our answer would flow within the context of our notes, okay? Or within the contents of our notes, all right? Okay, so let's move to again, for making our ideas logical and relevant is to simply arrange them, okay? And to simply put them, take down notes and like arrange them logically, right? That makes your answer relevant to the topic or to the question. So again, these are the three main criteria for fluency and coherence for speaking part 2. So we have here, the first one is to understand the question or the task. That means we have to understand the three types of questions. The second one is to speak at length. That means to use here speaking structure and the wide range of complex sentences. And the third one is to make our answer logical and relevant. And that is to learn to take down notes. All right. Now, why do we have to check to understand the three types of questions? So this is a thing that we have to ask. Okay, so why do we have to understand these three question types? Okay, now the main reason why we need to understand these three general question types is that it allows us pretty easily, all right, to use accurate cohesive devices, okay, or even the use of complex sentences. Again, I repeat, the main reason why we have to understand here the three question types, okay, or three general question types, is that it allows us to easily use, all right, accurate cohesive devices, all right. So let's have an example here, okay. So for example, the question type is to describe process or steps. Now here's the first question type, okay? So again, what I'm saying here is that when the candidate understand the type of question, it is much easier for them to make their ideas logical and relevant by using accurate cohesive devices, okay? So what do I mean by that? So for example here, the question is about describe a meal that you enjoy. So one should say what meal that is, what ingredients are needed, how to make it, and give reasons why you like this meal, all right? So we check here, all right? So we check here the most useful cohesive devices in this type of question, all right? So the most useful cohesive devices here is the transition words that describe steps or stages. Okay, so for example, we have here the starting process. So we can say first of all, in the first place, to begin. During the process, we can say next, then, after that, subsequently, etc. And then concluding the process, we have here finally, lastly, in the end. All right. And then we have your complex use of complex sentences. Okay. So again, the main reason why one has to understand that type of question is that it allows him or her to easily connect her ideas by using accurate cohesive devices. Okay. So that's the main one there. Now let's have another example. Okay. So here, describing the process or steps, that's the first one. How about describing the sequence of events? Okay, so here's an example question or sample question or sample topic for describing the sequence of events. For example, describe a situation you remember when you had to use a foreign language to communicate. Okay, so in here, one has to describe the sequence, the steps, okay, of what happened in the event. All right. Now, if you check here the highlighted words here, we have here, for example, at the time, before we went, one morning, after, the next thing we did, during all this, eventually, as soon as, later, etc. So these are the cohesive devices or transition words to describe stages in a story. All right, so again, the blue highlighted words here are transition words or cohesive devices to describe the stages in a story, which are very useful to make the answer type of question describing the sequence of events, logical and relevant. Okay, so again, I repeat, the reason why we need to understand the type of question is that when one understood the type of question, it is much easier for him, or for her to select, all right, to carefully and accurately select transition words and phrases or cohesive devices to make the ideas logical. Okay. Okay, so that's all for today's session. So today's session, we only covered here the two types of questions: fluency and coherent speaking part 2, what that is, and the two types of questions which are describing step, process, or steps, and describing the sequence of events. So again, IELTS speaking part 2 is individual long term. So the test lasts roughly 4 to 5 minutes. That includes your preparation time. Now, there are 4 criteria in which the student is awarded, the candidate is awarded. We have fluency, vocab, grammar, and pronunciation. And today's main topic is how to get a band 7.0 for IELTS speaking part 2 fluency, and that is to understand the question or the task, how to speak at length, and how to make our answer logical and relevant. Okay. So that's all for this morning's session, IELTS teacher training, IELTS speaking part 2, fluency and coherence part 1. Thank you, daghang salamat, mayong buntag, xin chào, good morning, and goodbye.